Hey there, folks. This is Coach Rich. Welcome to my, um, I'm calling this Build Your Fast Bike in the OutSeason webinar, or Explore Your Hard versus Long Side. Okay. Um, most, Many of the athletes on our squad are long course athletes specializing in either the half Ironman and the Ironman distance. And so you guys have grown very accustomed to perhaps thinking of your training in terms of your volume or chasing volume numbers. The outs the bike workouts in the out season are about the diametric opposite of that. It's about going hard, making yourself fast with basically no volume goals or not looking at your cycling volume at all. So tonight we're going to be talking about the purpose of the out-season bike workouts, bike testing and training zones, the intent and purpose of each flavor of out-season bike workout. I'm going to talk about interval pacing, and finally share with you our views on cycling volume in the out-season. Okay, so the goal of our out-season training plan is to make you fast, make you a faster and more durable 5K, 10K half marathon runner, and make you a faster 40K time trial cyclist. Okay, because if I can make you faster at shorter distances, then I've made you faster at longer distances once I put endurance on top of that faster you. Okay, so what what the bike workouts are all about in the out season, which is typically for our athletes from you know November through about April, depending on when you start your out season. It's about making you a faster cyclist, okay, with with no attention placed to your endurance. If I can make you if I can make you a faster 1 hour cyclist, if I can take your 1 hour speed, for example, from 21 miles per hour up to 23, I've absolutely made you a faster half Ironman or Ironman cyclist once I put endurance on top of that faster you. We had plenty of time to do that after our out season ends. But we do this with a minimal time and headspace investment. Okay. We are very much so all year long, we're very much about having you train efficiently and maximizing the return on race day that you get for each minute of training time invested. This is no more. This is extremely true in the out season, where we don't want you thinking about volume. We want you training as little as possible, so that you're investing as little time as possible in the out season, as little headspace as possible, so that we can spend that time and that headspace closer to your race, where it's going to do you the most good. Okay, so bike tests in the out season. Uh, if you are a trial member who came on board prior to our December out season, you're going to get a big wake up call, because in week 1 of your out season training plan, we're going to have you doing bike testing to establish your heart rate and power training zones. Okay, we do this to establish your training zones, so that when I say zone 2, zone 3, zone 4, zone 5, we are all speaking the same language. Specifically, you're training with our training zones, not with the training zones that you picked up from a different training system. Okay, next, we are establishing baseline fitness metrics. We are especially if you're training with power. Okay, we're establishing your functional threshold power at the start of the out season. We're going to read from that. We are going to establish new power training zones. We have you retest in week 8, so that we can reset your baseline functional threshold, or we can reset your functional threshold power, gauging how much you have improved, set new training zones off of that, and then finally we have everyone testing again in week 14 so that we can see what kind of fitness you're exiting your out season with, and so that we can establish fresh, new, shiny training zones before you move on to the rest of your Endurance Nation training and our other training plans. What this means is, whenever possible, uh, we want you to extract objective metrics from your bike test. If you don't have power, if you have power, that's great. Your metric is going to be your functional threshold power. If you don't have power, we highly recommend that you consider training via Trainer Road. Trainer Road is a web platform that allows you to get virtual power off of your bike on a trainer with heart rate. Okay, so the reason why we want objective metrics is I want you to think of your bike sessions in the out season as going to the gym. You're going to put weight on that bike and you're going to lift it. You're going to put watts on that bike. You're going to push those watts. The watts goes up. You're able to hold more watts. More watts applied to the rear wheel equals a faster bike outside when you can take your bike off your trainer and ride outside. So whenever possible, we want you focusing on the objective metrics of power, and really think of it as weight on a bench press. Okay, when I say I want you to ride at 200 watts, that's the same thing as saying I want you to put 200 pounds on the bench press and lift that weight. The more often you lift 200 pounds becomes 210, becomes 220, becomes 250, becomes 270 watts, and your former 200 watt self cannot hold the wheel of your new 270 watt self, and that's really what the out season is about. Okay, so actually, let's back up. Let's look at where these tests live, and because I'm going to have a lot of trial folks watching this webinar, I'm going to walk you through again our process for loading a training plan into your training plan account. Okay, I've got the EN Full Advanced Training Plan loaded up. So you click on Move Change Plan, and it's loading. And I'm going to select the OutSeason Advanced Training Plan. Our training plans are meant to load on a Sunday or load to end on a Sunday and then backfill to the present date. Okay, so a December out season people, if you're watching this, you are going to load your out season training plan, setting it to end on March 12th. Press save, and now it backfills into my training plan account. And here I'm looking at week 1, and I have my tests. Okay, for power athletes, the format of your test is in 3 parts. The first part is the warm up, which is just to get the blood flowing, get you ready to work. Okay, your first test is a VO2 max test. You're going to ride 5 minutes at the hardest effort you can hold for the entire 5 minutes. This is going to be a very hard, painful test. You will feel like you're in a nightmare in the last minute and a half. In the last 30 seconds, you're going to swear that your clock ticked backwards. So the purpose of this test is twofold. First, it is to establish your VO2 max. The second, it is to make you tired before you do the more important test, which is this functional threshold power test. Okay. In between that, you're going to spin easy for 10 minutes, and easy is just that. You're simply on the bike, getting the blood flowing, recovering so that you can put in a solid effort in this functional threshold power test. The FTP test is a time trial for 20 minutes at the best / hardest effort you can hold across the entire 20 minutes without a huge drop off in power at the end of the test. And later in this presentation, I'll talk about interval pacing. Okay, but you're going to take Um, the uh, the average watts from this 20-minute test, subtract 5 percentage points off of that, and this is your functional threshold power test that you're going to use to calculate your power training zones. And you're also going to take your average heart rate from this FTP test, and that is your lactate threshold heart rate. Power athletes, you are going to do a 40-minute time trial and take your average heart rate from this 40-minute time trial, and from this you will extract your lactate threshold heart rate, and you're going to use this to calculate your training zones. Okay, let's now talk about how you're going to enter these tests. Over here on the right, at my training zones, update my zones, and okay, so okay. Let's say I rode in 20 minutes. I rode 22 miles. No, I rode 12 miles, and my my lactate threshold, my testing heart rate was about 1, because I know what my threshold is, about 165. Test time, I don't know, 20 minutes, and my normalized power was 275. Okay, this calculates my functional threshold power as 261. It has inputted my my bike heart rate zones and my power training zones. I save these to my profile. I save these to my profile. And now when I go back to my training plan page, it has now populated my training zones in the right sidebar of my training plan page. Okay, so again, that was just a quick walkthrough of how to load up our training plans, what our bike tests are, and then how to take the testing data that you extract from this test and apply it to our training zones calculator to have your training zones display in the right sidebar of your training plan. Okay, so let's go back to our webinar. Okay, let's talk about the intent and purpose of each OutSeason bike workout. Okay, this is a this roof and ceiling analogy is one that I learned back when we first started Endurance Nation back in about 2007. Okay, and it was taught to me by Mike Prevost, who is a Navy sports physiologist. He works on the fitness programs for the Navy SEALs down in Coronado. Okay, so I want you to imagine that that your fitness is a room, and the goal of your OutSeason is to increase the total volume of your room. And next, imagine that the walls of your room are fixed. So we can't push the walls outward in order to increase the volume of your room. Only thing we can do is raise the height of your ceiling. The height of your ceiling is your functional threshold power, or your functional threshold speed, which is our zone 4 in our training zone regimen. Okay, so the height of your ceiling, which is the thing that we can move up or down to control the volume of your fitness room, this is your functional threshold power. Okay, now unfortunately, the height of my ceiling is limited by the height of my roof, which then creates an attic that's between my ceiling and my roof, right? So the height of your roof is your VO2 max. The height of your roof limits how high we can lift your ceiling and increase the volume of your room. Okay? So what the purpose of the OutSeason bike workouts are, what the purpose is to raise the height of your roof to allow more. It's to raise the height of your ceiling so that we can increase the volume of your room. and at the same time increase the height of your roof so that we can continue raising the height of your ceiling. Okay. So let's talk about how we do that in each individual Endurance Nation out-season bike workout. Okay. Your your Tuesday sessions in your training plans are your functional threshold power / zone 4 / lactate threshold day / raise the ceiling day. Okay, so when you are locked on your bicycle at 5 a.m. on January on Tuesday, and you're cursing my name because I know that you are. The purpose of this is to punch the clock at zone 4 with the purpose of raising the height of your ceiling and increasing the volume of your room by raising the height of your ceiling. Okay, so what I've done is I have a goal total minutes at zone 4 for each of these Tuesday sessions. And I'm achieving that through a mix of intervals. So, for example, in week 4 of your training plan on Tuesday, I have a goal of having you accumulate a total of 24 minutes of zone 4 time. And there's lots of ways I can get that 24 minutes of zone 4 time. Generally, the best intervals that we have you doing are between about 8 and 20 minutes long. And so you will see me bouncing around, 3 by 8, 2 by 12, 2 by 10, 2 by 15, 2 by 18, 2 by 20. Any kind of mixing of intervals that I can give you so that I can achieve the goal amount of zone 4 time that I have assigned to that individual session, in a manner that keeps you engaged, that keeps you from being bored, that just kind of mixes it up for you. Okay, and then finally, I'm dialing up the total amount of zone 4 time in each of these Tuesday workouts about every week. Okay, so it's in week 5 it might be 24 minutes, and then in week 6 it's 28, but then in week 7 it's 28 again, and then so each week I turn, you are a frog in a pot of water, and I'm just turning up the heat a little bit each week. Okay. Let's talk about how I want you to pace these zone 4 sessions. Okay. The most important part of your interval is the first 2 to 3 minutes. It should feel controlled and not hard. If the interval is feeling hard at 3 minutes, it's going to be a nightmare, and you're going to drop off your effort as you get deeper into that session. Okay, so your first 2 to 3 minutes should feel controlled, not hard yet. The next X minutes, X is everything but the last 1 to 2 minutes. Your effort and your rate of a perceived exertion builds, but then it kind of holds steady and increases gradually. Okay, but the last 1 to 2 minutes of the interval should feel pretty hard, but you're not in a nightmare. Okay, what's important is your effort should be consistent between intervals. So if you have power and your zone 4 power goal is 265 watts, your first interval should be 265, 270. Second should be 265. Third should be 260 to 265. What I don't want you to do is be a hero, overreach on the first interval, and go at 280 watts, and then really fall off in the second and third intervals. Okay. Heart rate versus power. Understand that your heart rate lags your effort by about a minute and a half. Okay, so if in this first 2 to 3 minutes you go out too hard at a zone 5 effort, you're not going to, it's going to take time for that heart rate to rise up to zone 4 and even zone 5, but it won't rise up to zone 5 because by the time it does, it's too late. You'll be too shagged to finish that 8-minute, 12, 15, 20-minute interval. Okay. So power versus heart rate, just understand that especially in the first or second intervals, there is a bit of a lag between your heart rate and your effort, and you just have to be patient and let that heart rate rise. And you really need to be controlled in the first 2 to 3 minutes of these zone 4 heart rate intervals. But what to do if it just ain't happening? Okay, you didn't eat your Wheaties, you didn't get a good night's sleep, you're dehydrated, you're not motivated, whatever it is, what your goals are for the day, it's just not happening. Um, my the way I work is it's more important for me to push the watts at whatever time or whatever length of interval allows me to push my goal watts. So, for example, if my goal is 3 by 12 watts at 265 watts, but I can just tell on the first interval that that 265 just isn't happening, I will probably cut that first interval short, and then on the second interval, I'll ride at 265 watts for the amount of time that I can still get 265 watts. And let's say that my goal was 3 by 12 equals 36 minutes. I am reducing the length of each individual interval, so that I can still hold my goal watts. And I'll just kind of do the smart guy thing as I'm going through the workout. Should I still hold to my 36 minutes of total zone 4 time goal, or do I need to back off of that also? And my criteria for making that choice is always, what is the impact of what I'm doing now on my downstream sessions? Okay. Um, it's so depending on my fitness goals, depending on how I'm feeling, depending on what my goals are for my next workouts, I may back off that 36-minute goal. Okay. Next, let's talk about your Thursday sessions. Thursday is VO2 max day. Okay, Thursday is VO2 max day equals raise the roof day. Okay, so over the years we've done we've tried out lots of iterations of this VO2 max stuff. Okay, first we started with what are called 30-30s, which is where we are back at right now. Okay, what 30-30s are is you're basically riding almost as hard as you can for 30 seconds. You ride very, very easy for 30 seconds. Then you're back on for 30. Then you're back off for 30. And what you're doing is the 30 seconds is at this zone 5 power, zone 5 heart rate effort, and by doing these 30 on, 30 off, 30 on, 30 off, you are accumulating, your body is accumulating time at this zone 5 effort, and I'm basically dialing this total minutes at zone 5 up about every week. Okay. But you're basically drag racing for 30 seconds and then resting for 30 seconds, on for 30, off for 30. Pacing, you want a consistent effort between intervals. So you don't want to be a hero on the first one so that you are a 0 on the last one. Okay, so again, if my zone 5 power is 300 watts, um, I should be seeing 300, 305, 310 across all of my on intervals. What I don't want to see is, I take the first one out at 350, the second one becomes 320, the third becomes, 300, fourth I'm limping to 280, and and the fifth one I'm huddled in a corner because I screwed myself on um, the first repeat. Okay. If it's not happening, what I will do is rather than going 30-30, I might go 30-45. I might even go 30 1 minute. Basically, I'm giving myself more rest so that I can try to hold my zone 5 power, um, and I may even drop the length of the interval down a bit. So, so sometimes I'll do so I'll do 30 on, 45 off. Then it might be 25 on and 45 off, or 20 on, whatever. I just kind of do the smart guy thing, increasing the rest interval and sometimes decreasing the work interval so that I can maintain my zone 5 power and accumulate my total zone 5 time goal across the session. Next, let's talk about Saturday. Saturday is functional threshold power plus ABP day. Okay, ABP means always be pushing, or zone 3. Zone 3 is a very valuable zone that we found. It allows you to increase the training stress of it. It allows us to increase or maximize the total training stress of the workout in a manageable, repeatable way. Okay, that doesn't leave you thrashed for your downstream sessions. So, um, so, so your Saturday ride is going to have more zone 4 intervals that are similar to Tuesday. And again, when I'm doing my smart guy Coach Rich thing on the Saturday OutSeason workouts, I have zone 4 time goals for each of these workouts, and they're dialed up about each week. And then you'll say, anytime that you have left in the workout after you do your warm up, after you do the zone 4 main sets, um, I want you to ride at zone 3 or always be pushing. That's what the effort should feel like. It shouldn't feel easy. It shouldn't feel steady. It should be an effort that yields a zone 3 heart rate that is at a zone 3 power. But how it should feel is that you have to maintain your focus to hold that effort. Okay. And then finally, let's talk about volume, cycling volume in the out season. I would like you to resist the urge to even to think about cycling volume in the out season. Think of it this way: if I can keep the volume of my workouts limited and not use volume as a tool by which I increase the difficulty of my workouts, that lets me increase the difficulty of my workouts by increasing how hard I go. How hard I go is me pushing my effort at zone 4 and at zone 5, focusing on the time and the quality of the time I'm spending at zone 4, which lifts my ceiling, at zone 5, which raises my roof. The more I can focus myself on zone 4 time and zone 5 time, the more efficient I'm being with my training time towards my goal of increasing the volume of my room with the time limitations that I have in the winter and in the out season, so that I'm not spending spousal approval units in the winter. I'm not spending headspace currency in the winter, so that I can spend those assets, those fixed assets, closer to my race when it does me more good. Okay. If you are able to ride outdoors, uh, you know, um, uh, in my experience, limiting yourself to 2 to 3 hours of outdoor riding allows you to get a good mix of zone 4, zone 4, maybe some zone 5 time. Still allows you to punch the clock at that zone 3. Um, uh, um, Always be pushing effort in a manner that is repeatable, and most importantly, this is a time frame that is manageable for age group athletes who are able to ride in the out season without able to ride outdoors in the out season without that time um, uh, encroaching on their other obligations. If you need to ride, if you're indoors, there's really no there's really no need to ride longer than the training volumes I have assigned to each of the Saturday rides. Um, but if you're still feeling froggy and you still feel like doing a little bit more, our role is, unless you are in the out season and you're training for a very, very early season Ironman, I want you on the trainer for no more than 2.5 hours. Okay. There's simply no reason for any Endurance Nation athlete to be riding more than 2.5 hours in the out season. Um, we've put 6,000 athletes through this out season training protocol, and it works. And we've seen no significant difference on race day between athletes who've tried to focus on volume in the out season and people who have completely disregarded volume and have instead focused on maximizing or optimizing their time at zone 4, which is their ceiling, or zone 5, which is their roof. Okay, so again, the bike workouts in the out season are about encouraging you to explore your hard versus your long side. Okay, all right. Okay. If you have any questions, please ask them in the question bar. Arnold's got 3 questions for you. Why not just do 2x20 every FTP workout? People start the out season at different levels of fitness. I have to build them up to doing 2x20. The advanced training plan gets to a 2x20 place. The other training plans get at or near that 2x20. And as you move into the other training plans, which are meant to be done after our out season, that 2x20 is a bit of a staple, which you will see a lot in the training plan. So folks, what we're talking about here, the classic functional threshold power workout, which has been done since the dawn of power training, which I'd say started to get very, very popular in the early 2000s and has really taken off in the last 4 to 6 years. The classic workout is 2x20. Just go out and do 2x20. But I have to build people up there. Not everyone has the same. I have to keep people's heads in the game and minimize their headspace costs. So variety. So I like to mix things up. ABP, yes, means 80 to 85% of your functional threshold power. And again, if we go to our training plan, let's go to week 2 where I've got you doing these intervals. What's going on? Is it still loading? Sorry, not sure what's going on here, folks. But little technical difficulty with Coach Rich's training plan. All of the I don't know what happened here. Sorry, folks. So each Endurance Nation bike workout, the training zones. So if it says, so there is a prescription for power athletes, a prescription for heart rate athletes, and there is a a prescription for what the workout should feel like, RPE. So just follow the guidance that is written in the workout. Arnold asks, talk about change in functional threshold power when switching from road bike to tri bike. That's different for everyone, and there's also a difference between going from riding indoors to outdoors. In our experience, there is no you pretty much everyone is able to hold higher powers outdoors vice indoors. Most people are able to hold higher watts on a road bike rather than a tri bike. So there can be some friction when athletes typically are riding indoors on a road bike, and then they move towards moving outdoors on a tri bike. And what the difference in those numbers is, i.e. indoors versus outdoors, road bike versus tri bike, in my experience, is different for everyone. There is no hard and fast rule as to what those differences are. There is a bit of an adaptive period that happens at the end of your out season and at the start of your regular training as you move from riding with power indoors and start moving outdoors, or you go from riding a road bike to a tri bike. But what those differences are is different for everyone. Peter asked, can I talk about how running fits into all this? No, because this is about cycling in the out season. I'll encourage Patrick to create a session for you guys on about how the run works in all of this. I will say that one of the major changes that that Patrick and I made in 2015, when we changed the focus of the out-season training plans from being focused on making you faster 5K, 10K, half marathon runners to adding more of a running durability component. We dialed down the difficulty of the bike workouts a tick to accommodate the higher cycling or the higher running frequency. Okay. But the purpose of this webinar was to dive very, very deeply into the bike workouts and the intent of the cycling sessions, so that you have more clarity on the bike portion of the out-season training plan. Okay. And Arnold asked a question about doing FTP on a flat or a hilly course. Your functional threshold power test should be in or on a venue that is repeatable, and it is safe and allows you to do a consistent test for each test. And it should be on a venue that allows you to hold a steady power across the test. So if you can, and finally, I should say that that the venue, and therefore the power that you extract from the venue, should be similar to the venue on which you are training. So if you're able to do your functional threshold power training outdoors, then your test should be outdoors, and it should be on the same or the similar venue that you'll be doing your training on. If you are testing indoors, you should be doing it indoors on your trainer, on the same riding position, the same variables controlled, so that the watts or the heart rate that you extract from your test is similar to the conditions that you'll be experiencing in your training sessions. Now, having said all that, it is easier to hold higher watts on a hilly course rather than a flat course. My testing and my training venue is Chantry Flats, It is a 3.1 mile climb that starts 3.3 miles from my house. It is at a nearly constant grade. And I've been going up and down this thing pretty much every week since the dawn of time. And I know I have enough experience to know that if I can hold X watts up this hill, then I can subtract 7% from that number, and that is my flat ground functional threshold power test. Okay. Um, uh, but that's a very unique training environment. That's me. I know that environment, but it also reflects the intervals that I do because I go back and I do intervals on that hill. Okay, but if I were relegated to doing my my zone 4 training on flat ground, I should be testing on flat ground. If I'm doing my training indoors, I should be testing indoors. Um, And then the last question I'm going to take, folks, because I've been up since 3 a.m. Coach Rich time, because I'm still on East Coast time. Is there value in inching your FTP? Okay, we test FTP twice. Is there value in inching your FTP up each week? Okay, here's the deal. Here's what's going to happen, especially if you're starting your out season with relatively poor fitness. Or you are new to training with power and you're new to training with intervals. Okay. Your test in week 1 probably won't be a great test, meaning you won't pace it that well. You don't know how hard you can go. You don't know how much weight you can put on the bar. And the watts from your first functional threshold power test might be lower than they could be if you had a better idea of how to do these tests. Okay, what is then gonna happen as you get more familiar with yourself, as you learn how to pace these intervals, as your fitness increases, you're going to start to see the watts for these intervals increase. Okay, do you need to do a formal test to reset your FTP? Should you be limiting yourself to the watts that, so if you test at 220 watts and then on week 2, week 3 you can feel that your fitness has improved, should you limit yourself to 230 watts? The way I do it, no. I know what I can do. I know what my FTP is. I know what I can do on each interval. But the criteria that I'm using is I need to ride at watts that allow me to hold consistent watts between the intervals. Okay, so if my FTP is 230, but I feel like testing it out at 240, I'll go 240, 240, 245. What I won't do is get stupid and go 265 watts, and then my second interval is 230, and then my third one I'm limping home to 210 watts. Okay, so there is no hard and fast rule. I will generally say it's okay to bump your watts up each week, or as you feel you can in real time when your nose is on the grindstone and you're doing the work. But your criteria is that you want to hold consistent watts between your intervals. Okay. All right, folks. Thanks for your time. I'm going to get this processed. Get it out via email to everyone that registered, post it in the forum, post it on the website, and get it out to everyone as efficiently as I can. Okay? Thanks for your time tonight. This is Coach Rich signing off. Bye.